Mr. Speaker.
Sir William Sio.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps I could just begin by laying a bit of groundwork in terms of the context before we get to the bill. Because this bill doesn't just happen in vacuum. It's part and parcel of a whole package that has had an impact on local government since this government, the John Key Act government, came into power. Mr. Speaker, the House will recall that in 2009, the Minister introducing this bill branched around the whole Auckland region and around the country and said that they were going to ram through legislation and change the face of local government in the Auckland region. They also, this is the same minister and the same government that then talked about how there was going to be some savings by bringing together the 8 pieces of local authority in the Auckland region. Well, none of that has come to happen. There is no savings. In fact, in Auckland, we're still trying to recover from the cost that has now been imposed on every ratepayer in Auckland for the burden of this government forcing that entity on the Auckland region. Second thing I want to say is the same minister, aided and abetted by Mr. John Key, went around local governments again and said, look, we want to bring in private-public partnerships. We're looking at selling off the state assets, the local assets, things that the public contributed to over the many, many years. And so now, finally, and in 2009 they're saying that this is an idea that came out of the Jobs Summit, but where are the jobs? So after 2 years of sitting on this idea, I have to agree that it is a welcome, refresh idea that they're now introducing this local government borrowing bill to make it easier, or to perhaps take advantage of the economies of scale so that the local governments are going to be able to borrow for the needed infrastructure throughout this country of ours. But I have to say, sir, that I'm just a bit peeved that they're introducing this close to the election when all the time they didn't give a damn about local government, didn't care one iota about the burdens that ratepayers were experiencing the length and breadth of this country. In fact, they didn't care about local government enough to be able to get rid of the Canterbury Regional organisation, and we will never know when that regional organisation will be brought into operation again. So, whilst we support this idea at the higher level, I think it is important that this goes out to the public, that every local council, every mayor, every councillor, every local board throughout the country does have a say in this. Because if every local council is not going to participate in this funding agency, then we lost the intent or the benefit, if any, from the economies of scale that theoretically this funding agency will be able to achieve. And so I think it is important for the local authorities, the length and breadth of this country, to be able to have a say on it. I think the good thing is there's potentially that we won't see local governments having to go to try and set up public-private partnerships, which has the potential for those local authorities to lose the strategic assets that they have built up over the years through their sweat energy and through their own resources, that this government is still talking about come next time that they have the opportunity of sitting in the government benches. I do want to share that there are some concerns that I think that the public should be asked to have a view on. Because by establishing this company, and it is a private company, they're establishing a private company under the Companies Act, but it will also be subject to the provisions of another act which treats this company as if it was a local government. And so I want to have a view from the public or from local authorities is how do they see the operations of such an agency? If it is to be treated like a local authority, Who then appoints the directors of this company? Who then appoints the directors of that company? Or will it be up to the local authority? Will it be up to the public? Will the public have an opportunity to choose the directors or the governance body of that particular company? And if the funding agency is to take advantage of the economies of scale, will they listen to the views of the mayors and councillors? What happens to those councils who do not want to be a part of this funding agency? Will we lose out on their participation, on their potential contribution? Will government listen and take seriously the views of the mayors or councillors, or can they expect to be treated with disdain as other councils and other mayors have been treated in the past under this minister here? As I said, it is set up under the Companies Act 1993, but this bill provides also provisions for the Securities Act 1978, so that it treats this as an agency, as it were a local authority. And the public want to know, how do they participate? How do they hold the governance structure of the agency accountable? Will the directors of the company be appointed by the minister, or will the public and their local councils have any input in that? The claim that this idea came from the Job Summit simply reinforces what the opposition has been saying all along. That was just a John Key gimmick. There were no jobs yet. We're still waiting on that. And so that is further evidence. And so I suppose, on balance, it didn't achieve what Mr. Key convinced the rest of New Zealand it would do, and that was create jobs. But at least we've got some idea, which I have to say, after 2 years, why have they dragged their feet on that particular idea if it's such a great idea? I want us to say also that earlier in this debate, there was some confusion as to whether the ACT Party is part of the National Party, or whether the National Party is part of the ACT Party, because they didn't seem to support each other in the last debate. But now we're hearing them becoming as if they're friends again. And so in this bill, is the National Party and the ACT Party joined together in supporting this bill? The public will want to know whether that relationship is a genuine relationship, whether that is going to endure beyond this election. And I think when you listen to the debate earlier, where they're condemning the ACT Party, and now they're being friends of the ACT Party, you really have to wonder what sort of games are they playing at, whether this is really genuine, or whether, because we're just close to election, that they're now raising this as a viable activity. But I suppose the final question that needs to be asked, will it be cost effective for the community and the ratepayers? Because whilst the intent of the bill is to bring about more cost-effective ways of borrowing money so that councillors can build their infrastructure, but the question has to be asked, will those benefits then transfer back to the ratepayers and to the wider community? Because I think, sir, under the present conditions that has been imposed upon this country by the lack of action and the no planning by this particular government, ratepayers are hurting, and ratepayers will want to know, will this agency, will this organisation bring about lower rates? Will this organisation mean that the general public will be able to enjoy the benefits of the public infrastructure without having to put out further money, further rates increases, as we have seen under the watch of this John Key, Mr. Hyde government? Thank you, sir.